All right, so let's jump into this. Let's talk about investing back into the business from a real estate agent's perspective, right? So I think the first thing that I think about is why most agents don't. Because that's the truth. Most of them don't invest back into their business. They don't invest to help grow their business. And that's where I want to start the conversation. Why do you guys believe that most real estate agents refuse to put any of the money that they make back into the business? Ben, let me start with you. Seems like you're itching and you got something juicy for us. So rock and roll.
I'll just say this. They've got the completely wrong mindset. They're not looking at it as a business. We're talking about investing back into a business, and they don't have a business. They are a solopreneur that has a job in real estate, and they just happen to have a job and they work for themselves.
It's a great
So
point.
they just want to keep it all. They're holding on so tight to everything.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think you're spot on. I think most people have the mindset of a job, and it'd be the same thing as like a W-2 employee. You don't see them investing back in their job. They go to work for a paycheck and then they go home. And so you're right. The mindset's got to be, well, if this is a business, which it is, it requires capital. It requires reinvesting. Colin, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I mean, it's so, and the way people get into this industry is so easy. So there's not enough of a pain point of coming into the business. Like if you were to open up any other business, a franchise or something, you have to start with an investment typically. In this, we spend $1 or $2 grand, learn some stuff, and then say, all right, well, where's my money?
Yeah,
and I think the way we start in this business doesn't allow people to see that from the beginning.
No, that's true. That's true. I've got something. I look at it a little differently, but before I pop into there, Dominic, Ron, you guys have any thoughts on why you believe maybe agents don't reinvest in themselves or in the business?
I think a lot of it is fear. Number one, trusting. There's a lot of coaching programs out there, man. And which one's the right one for me? You know what? I'm going to stick with my mentor. They're doing me well, my broker. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube. But getting back to what Ben and Colin said, it's a business. And these people, don't manage it like a business. And Colin said it, if you get a franchise, if you want to be McDonald's, you got to go to McDonald's University.
Yeah.
And they're going to teach you.
Go ahead, Dom.
Yeah. So my observation in the business is this, and in my market, the average agent sells something like 3.7 properties a year, right? So almost everybody else probably sells 0, and there's a bunch of guys that sell 20, 30, 40, 50, right? Or a small amount that do that. So I believe that if you're selling 3 homes a year, there isn't any extra money to spend on anything. They're just barely scraping by. So it's a scarcity situation, and that is built from a scarcity mindset. That's why I think most agents don't even consider spending money on something else. They don't have it.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I mean, I wrote that exact same thing down, Dominic. I want to unpack that a little bit more. Everything's on a spectrum, right? There's no one size fits all. So the vast majority, I'll say most of our industry is exactly what Dominic just said, is that the average is what the average is because most of the industry gets in this business to sell 2 or 3 homes to their friends and family. I mean, that is what the real estate industry is made up of. And then you have side hustle. I mean, that's it. So you talk about investing. What are you talking about? I mean, I got my license because I got a lot of friends and I just want to monetize that. That's the vast majority of the real estate industry. There's a small percentage that treat this like a real business. There's a small percentage that make a lot of money selling real estate. And when I say a lot of money, to quantify that, I'm talking about, $250, $350, $500, $1 million plus in taxable income. You're talking about 1%. So if there's 1.5 million realtors, the vast majority are selling a handful of homes. That's one thing. And then the other thing that Ron said, because there's a lot of areas to invest your money back into the business. You were talking about coaching, Ron, which is one area, and we're going to talk more about that later. But what I wrote down is what Ron said. They don't trust themselves. They don't trust themselves that if they invest in whatever, and we're going to talk about some vehicles in what they can invest in, they don't trust themselves enough to get a return on that investment. So therefore, I'm just simply not going to do it. And so that's, in my experience, where I see the biggest reason why these agents aren't going to put out money, because it's like, dude, I know myself. And whatever vehicle that may be, there's just not enough trust. So let's get into some of the vehicles that an agent can invest back into the business. And I have 3 areas that I kind of want to talk about in order. And the first one, I believe, is the first place someone should invest their money is into themselves, in an income generating skill, whether that be coaching, consulting, buying courses, whatever the case may be. I'm a product of that non-traditional education path. That is why I am here right now, is because of that path. And I love how Alex Hormozy calls it paying down the ignorant tax. It's the best way to describe it. If you're not making $400,000 right now per year, it's costing you $400,000 a year not knowing how to make $400,000 per year. And so wouldn't it only make sense to pay Bob or Joe or whoever, and this is not a pitch for coaching. I don't care if someone coaches with us or they coach with somebody else. If you are refusing to invest a few $1,000s in your own personal self-development in return for generating $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, that is pretty ignorant, in my opinion. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think if you take a step back to kind of what we were talking about to really nail this point down, Brandon, is you got to be honest with yourself up front. So let's look at a normal business that is going to start. They're going to have capital saved. And if they don't, or if they don't fully understand the business, they're going to go work with an expert. So coaching can be, I'm going to pay Brandon coaching, or it could be, I'm going to join a team and learn through that way. So it's like, let's make sure we have a solid foundation. And if you can be honest with yourself, maybe it makes sense for you because you need the money right now. You can't afford to wait 12 months and just continue to reinvest the money. So let's be honest with ourselves and pay that ignorance tax down through joining a team and understanding the exchange that's happening there. Pay it that way, and then save up and go and start to invest and have your own business. But then when you are ready to start your own business, then we can dive into what you touched on. Yeah,
no, I think that's a really good point. It's like, I think that it's just, again, goes back to a mindset, goes back to a worldview or a belief, that like, I don't understand that investing in this high income skill, how that pays me back somehow. But if we can pay down the ignorant tax as fast as possible so that because you're in the way, like you're not you, I'm talking about humans in this industry, they are the problem. They don't make the income because of them. And so they have to pay down their own ignorance by investing in themselves so that they can get out of their own way. That's really, to me, what coaching is. If Dominic, you can help me because you've already walked before me, and I can benefit from your 15 years of experience and all the mistakes you've made, and I can make a multiple 6-figure income by giving you $5,000. Well, how fast can I do that? And agents just have a tough time with that.
Well, and the thing is, you pay for it one way or another. And it doesn't mean you have to get into coaching or whatever, but like, this is what I tell every new agent I talk to when we're on a call. I say, I don't care what you do if you decide to work with us or somebody else, but that the only thing is you leave this call committing to work with somebody. Like, don't do what I did for 2 years and think, I'll just have a thought one day and know what to do. So yeah, you're either going to pay for it, in time, because you're going to have to learn, or in money. And whether that's up front with a coach, or like Ben said, giving up a larger commission of a part of your commission on the back end because you're learning with somebody, like that is good too. It's just deciding to do it in the beginning because you don't have to waste that much time.
So true. I mean, go ahead, Ben.
I think you can do both. So this is what I was just talking to a new agent about this, that just about to quit the business. And I said, hold on, let's take a step back. You're a hard worker. Go and join a team and look at it as a job, okay? But also side hustle and build your skill set along the way so that you can be doing both. So this team he joined is gonna give him a bunch of leads, which is gonna give him instant income, right? He's gonna sell maybe 4 times the amount of houses for the income he would make on his own. However, it's consistent. And I said, now couple it with prospecting. So now he's doing both at the same time. So it doesn't have to, I don't think, be one way or another.
Agreed.
No, that's a good point. Go ahead, Ron.
Well, the other thing too that it's going to add to this guy is it's going to give him confidence.
Right.
And that's, they all lack confidence because they don't know what to do. You get, the coaching is going to shorten the learning curve. Okay. Agents are bored. They don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So how do you figure out what to do? Well, you engage in a team or you engage in a coach.
Right.
And just like we tell everybody, whether it's us or anybody else, you got to be all in.
Yeah.
You can't just, you got to be all in.
I think the mindset of like going it alone, I mean, a lot of people are starting to recognize that now because there's a lot more voices saying like, dude, I'd rather do a joint venture, right, with somebody who knows what they're doing than me try to jump in this pond alone when I've never swam before. It's just stupid. It's ignorant. And so that's one. Number two, well, I am curious. So let's pretend we have Bob and we have Sue, right? This is our famous people in our community. They've invested in themselves. They've paid the price, so to speak, that they paid down that ignorant tax. They're on a team for a year and a half. They've been in coaching. They are making now a multiple 6-figure income. Call it $100,000 a year, 150, whatever. When an agent hits that mark, what do you guys think is the next step strategically when they say, okay, I want to continue to scale where now I have some excess capital, Ben, Colton, Dominic? Where should I put money, guys? What do you guys think? And there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious, what is your honest assessment, your honest opinion? What is step 2? If step 1 is invest in yourself, what would step 2? Go ahead, Dom.
Well, if I was in that situation and I had good production going, the very next thing I think that I would be inclined to invest money in if I was a solo agent would be some sort of executive assistant to take off of my plate the tasks and chores that I've been doing that don't create revenue, right? They say if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant, right? So if you can pay somebody, I don't know, $1,000 a month to do your mailers and send out emails and those sort of small tasks, that is buying you the one thing you can't get more of, which is time.
You and I are 100% in lockstep. I'm looking for, maybe we get a healthy debate from the others here, Dominic, but I'm with you because if I now have a high income skill, call it selling over the phone, that generates me 150 grand, the next problem is how do I do that more? How do I find more time to do of what is working? And the answer is by leveraging through an admin. And so go ahead, Colin, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, I wanted to butt in because I want Ben to go last because I think he's going to have a really good answer. So I want to get this out of the way. But I think what you guys said is spot on, but also I would add a caveat to it depends. So like if you're going to hire an assistant, you should hire them out of necessity because you have too many leads and too many appointments. If you're not to that point, maybe it makes sense to invest into a lead generation tool or something to produce more leads and appointments that you can, now I'm running out of time because I've got too many leads and appointments. So now I'm going to hire an assistant. So I would say depends on where you're at in your business. If you don't have enough leads and appointments yet, you should be investing into that. Now, the question is, are you not having enough leads and appointments because you don't have enough time? Well, then there you go. Then that makes sense to hire an assistant. But I think we got to look at where you're at in business and the priority should be leads, appointments. And then what do I have to do to get more of those? Maybe it's an assistant, maybe it's lead generation.
So there it is. Let's debate that for a second. So I see that a little differently because I believe that that anybody should lead through revenue. And so before getting a lead platform, right? Because we're going to talk about that obviously here in just probably a minute. But before you should do that, why not maximize your capacity, your own capacity to generate as much revenue, to stay as close to the revenue for as long as possible? So the thought is, okay, well, if I hire, okay, so I'm at full capacity and I can make, I'm just making up a number, $200,000 and I'm maxed out. I'm working 7 days a week. I'm like a crazy person. Well, if I add leads to that with no admin, all it's doing is adding more water to a boat that is has holes in it, because I'm already maxed out. So if I add more of what I'm already maxed out on, I don't see how that helps the person what they need, because they need leverage to get out of the things that are not generating revenue. Then is it reasonable to believe that that person now can create more revenue before they hire or get on a lead platform? That's the way I see it.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
That was my, it depends with that. Yeah, 100%. I guess I was coming at it from the angle of like, are you maxed out?
Well,
right?
well, the issue is, and guys butt in, this is a nice healthy debate. Most people want to leverage lead generation first. And that's, I think, from my perspective, that's a mistake. I just had Rory from our community on the podcast yesterday, building a team. They want to hire salespeople first. And he's like, dude, that was the biggest fucking mistake ever. I should have hired admin first, not sales first. Everybody wants to leverage out of like that piece first, where it's like, dude, that's not the foundation. That'll be short-lived.
Well, and what happens?
You're limited by your systems too, right?
Yeah.
So like if you have certain systems in place, it's going to limit you based on what you can kick through the process. And customer service is a big part. Communication is a big part of our business. So if we just add more leads, more people into the business, and we're neglecting people more and more, then we don't have a sustainable business long term. We'll just be turning and burning clients, and we won't have that database that we're desiring to build, so that this becomes more of a reoccurring business, and we don't have to work as hard every time for a client.
That's exactly right.
Well, now I was going to add, the admin is going to fill those gaps where things aren't going to slip through. It's going to add more professionalism to yourself, having an admin that's going to be following up with people and keeping them in the loop. So you don't have to worry about it. You can sleep at night and not wonder, did I forget to do this? Did I forget to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. The way I look at, go ahead.
I was just going to say, let's remember what we really do, what our business really is. And we need to be honest and realize that our business, what we do every day, is prospect.
That's right.
So we're not a sales assistant. We need to wear those hats in the beginning as the business, but our biggest dollar amount is we need to be on the phone, and we're outbound prospectors. That's going to be our biggest return.
How many agents have we seen in our program get so busy that the prospecting falls off for a few weeks? And what do they got? They got to get back on the train and do it again.
All over. Yeah.
100%. And so that is exactly right. And the way I see it is, I believe in this so much that I believe there might be maybe 2 or 3 hires before you start leveraging lead generation. Let me propose this. So if a realtor can do, let's just call it 20 contacts a day through outbound prospecting on a consistent basis, we're not talking about every Tom, Dick, and Harry. We're not talking about the 80%. We're talking about the small percentage of people that are truly committed. And they're doing 20 conversations a day, 100 a week, right? It's like 4,800 a year or something like that. And as a result, they do 40 deals a year. Okay, great. If they hire an assistant that takes off, call it 20 hours a week of administrative transaction coordination, can that same person now do 40 conversations a day? Maybe they can. So now they can maybe do 60 deals, right, with one full-time admin. Well, the next piece of leverage might still not be leads. It might be leveraging out of the buy side of the business, right? We're just layering it on. So I might hire a showing assistant so I can leverage again, because I'd like to get me personally, I'm better on the phone than anybody else. This is my mindset, right? I'm better than anybody else. Just get me on the phone more. And so what I'm trying to do is all the things that take me off the phone, I'm trying to delegate. In other words, I'm trying to hire a bunch of nurses and nursing assistants that surround me, that take everything off my plate that isn't on the phone generating appointments and going on appointments. So I might I might invest, because that's what we're talking about, in a showing assistant, not a buyer's agent, but someone to handle all of my showings with all of my clients. They go to my buyer consultation. Hey, this is Susie Q. She's going to help open the doors for you. And I might do that first. So I might go admin. Then I might go showing assistant. And then I might even go transaction coordinator. I might make 2 or 3 hires before I start doing any leverage lead generation. Go ahead, Ben.
And let's remember that not everything is going to be upfront cost. The buyer you can pay at closing, agent, you can do a split rev share. The transaction coordinator, you can do a pay at closing. So you're never going to like realize that money, but you are going to realize that 2 hours that you saved, that you made, 14 more contacts and got 3 more leads in that day versus you showed a house that the person didn't like.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All of what we just said can be leveraged through a closing,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think agents are so fast to skip steps 1 and 2 that we've outlined in this conversation. Like, well, I'm going to skip creating my own skill set. I'm going to skip going to admin. I'm going to go right to leads. Everyone thinks leads are the problem. Leads are easy. Leads are not the problem. Conversion is hard. And having the time to convert leads is the problem. But the first 2 will set you up to be very, very successful. And so now let's pretend. Now we're talking about anomalies. We're talking about 1, 2, 3% of the people, right? They have a high income skill. They know how to sell. They know how to close. They know how to convert. They're consistent as hell. They've got a full-time admin. They probably have a couple people of leverage on the team. That's the team that I believe in. Now, where should people invest their money? And so this brings up the real good conversation around, should I leverage through an outbound prospect or do more of what I know is working? Should I buy internet leads? Should I do Google pay-per-click? Thoughts on that? Ben, why don't you open that up for us?
I love this topic because I think that we as agents want and think it needs to be more complicated. It needs to be sexier. It needs to be this, that, and the other to get more business, right? We think we have to be on the radio and have billboards, and that's when we're going to be successful, making 7 figures, whatnot, right? But the reality is, let's go super deep on what we already know works the best. And that's, I believe, outbound prospecting.
1,000%.
So let's leverage that.
So I'll just throw in my 2 cents and then we'll open this up for more dialogue. I completely agree. So much so that I've spent the vast majority of this year testing what I'm about to say so that it can be true. Dominic, you were part of a beta test where we did some seller lead Google pay-per-click advertising. We've always been doing direct outbound. We've always had ISAs. We've always been doing that for decades. And we have dabbled in internet lead generation on the buy side and on the sell side. And here's the numbers are the numbers. This is not an emotional statement. This is a factual statement. And the facts are, Dominic, I know with 100% certainty that when you call homeowners direct over the telephone, that you convert more of those, call it a cold call whatever you want, more of those than somebody who is opting in on a Google lead that we paid for. You and I just proved that over the last 90 days, did we not?
Yeah, 100%. I can corroborate that. And I don't know what the exact number is, but it's 50x or better. Because I have a fixed outbound cost for my outbound prospecting, and I convert those at a significantly higher rate than what we were working with the Google pay-per-click leads, because we don't know what place in the process those people are. But when I call somebody who's an expired or a for sale by owner, I know where they are in the process. I just jump right in at that point and do my thing and get them converted. The other people, it's a bowl of spaghetti.
It is a bowl of spaghetti. And the thing is, so I when I thought about this conversation, it's the point of communication exchange that is the problem with internet leads. In other words, with Google PPC, we call it, let's just say if our cost per lead is $25 as an example, and we buy that opt-in, because it's not a lead yet, because we haven't talked to them. They opt in, cost us, Google charges us $25 to do that, send them through a funnel, yada, yada, yada. Well, then we have to start our funnel, which is an outbound phone call. And so essentially what we're doing is our cost per our acquisition cost for the data, all we did was increase that unnecessarily. So what you're saying is you could go with a Vulcan 7 or a Red X or a Mojo, whatever, for $200-$300 a month, have unlimited numbers direct to the homeowner. You don't have to pay $25 for a name and a phone number, because at that moment is when you have to start the process anyways, versus the point of opt-in with an ISA is completely different. Leveraging through a voice-to-voice opt-in is completely different. And that is why we see that leveraging through ISAs makes so much more sense, because I'll give you the numbers. If you, Dominic, call, well, there is no difference. We proved this when you just cold call versus buying leads from the internet. It's still like cold calling the person, right? When an ISA goes out there and has a voice-to-voice conversation, we know the contact rate just with those is 30%. Ben, we did the math yesterday, did we not?
We did, yeah.
So just that one KPI, just that one difference between cold calling and calling internet leads, just the connection rate is vastly different. Then we talk about the conversion from connection to close is a whole different world, because our opt-in with ISAs is what? It's a voice-to-voice conversation where the homeowner had plenty of time to say that they weren't interested, but they didn't say that. They were interested in talking with a realtor, and therefore, that's why the conversion is so much higher. Versus on the internet, the point of opt-in doesn't necessarily mean that the person is qualified. That's the way I see it in those two worlds. So if I had $2,000 a month and I can go buy internet leads, or I can have someone call homeowners direct, I'm having the person call homeowners direct every single time. You guys see that differently or have an opinion?
I think it's spot on. I mean, the internet leads, you get into hamster wheel and you're chasing and chasing and chasing.
Yeah.
Now you're putting someone on the phone and you're going to get 30% contact rate. And then you can work from there and scale that into getting face-to-face appointments.
That's right.
What's more controllable? Like one change to an algorithm, like you're screwed, or now your cost per lead doubles. And so with an ISA, you can control that. They can call for more. They can change the hours. Like
you could get another one.
Yeah, seriously. And the other thing is it's fixed. You know, it's like this. It's fixed and it compounds. Whereas like, Google PPC. I mean, you guys have probably all heard the saying: the best way to make a small fortune in real estate is to start with a big one.
That's great.
It's like you gotta
the best
put a lot of money.
sayings.
You gotta put a lot of money into it. So.
Let's not forget too, those internet leads we still have to call, right?
Exactly.
So if I'm gonna still call somebody, let's target who we want to call and skip the opt-in and just call those targeted people.
Because all you do is you put money and time in front of a conversation. That's it. Where you can go direct to the conversation.
Why are agents more willing to call somebody that has opted in over the internet versus just call somebody that we know might have an intention to sell?
Dude, you took the words right out of my mouth. And here's the other thing. They get more rejection calling an internet lead than they do direct to a homeowner. I didn't opt in. That's bullshit. What's happening here? Because there's more skepticism with the internet, right? And the other thing is what we're talking about to that point, Ben, is the importance of the first contact. And the problem with internet leads is you pay company X. It doesn't matter. Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, Google, whatever. you still haven't had the first contact yet. So you paid money. You're already out money before the most important thing has already occurred. Unlike when you have an ISA who has done the heavy lift. That's what you're paying for. The heavy lift is that initial conversation that all of us are trying to avoid like the plague. That's what you're paying for, is to get out of that heavy lifting. And Ben, you've been doing this for a while. I mean, we don't have to get into the semantics of it, but do you see that similar to kind of how I'm painting that picture?
Exactly. You say do the heavy lifting. I call it shake the tree.
There you go.
I'm just trying to find the people that have their hand raised. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything.
That's right.
But if they can do the kind of like sifting for me, then let's not confuse this. They're not setting a listing and it's a slam dunk, right? I want them to identify people that have interest, and I am the closer. I'm the killer. I'm going in there and hitting it out of the park. They're just making sure my 2 hours a day is talking to highly qualified people. So it's right. If I can't call for more time, I just want to call better people. So I have them shake the tree for me.
Yep, exactly right. And with internet leads, you're still having to sift. You're just paying a lot more money for names and numbers that still have to be sifted. And here's
we can just buy.
We can just buy. And the thing is, how about this? This makes matters even worse. There's people that are buying internet leads and then hiring ISAs to call the internet leads before they even get. It's like, dude, you are wasting so much money. You should just skip the buying of the internet lead for the sifting and just have the ISA call the homeowner direct. I mean, you just save all those big teams that are spending millions on these leads to have ISAs call and speed the lead and blah, 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 blah. Why don't you just have them call the homeowner directly?
Yeah. And most internet leads are buyers too, which are going to take more time anyway.
Right.
Exactly. So anyway, I think we beat that thing to death on how where you might want to put the money that you are earning in excess back into the business to scale a business. And we fully understand that this only really is going to resonate with a small percentage of the agents out there. It's not right or wrong, good or bad. It's okay. But Dominic, I think you hit it, that most agents, will never have a need to reinvest. So this is just for those agents that are saying, listen, I'm doing well. I want to do better. I want to scale. Where does it make sense to invest? And hopefully we've done a nice job outlining where that might be. So gentlemen, we appreciate you guys very much.